Welcome to this presentation of our paper, An Examination of Motivation in Physical Therapy through the Lens of Self-Determination Theory, Implications for Game Design. Looking at physical therapy, the importance of motivation is widely acknowledged. Work in this area also highlights the importance of understanding and considering all contributing factors to motivation in order to successfully employ strategies to best support the people taking part in physical therapy. However, there are a few concrete examples as to how physical therapy is adapted to the needs of the individual. Using games in serious contexts, such as physical therapy, is, among other reasons, often explained through the assumption that games are highly motivating. It is also commonly acknowledged that in order to best motivate players of such games, difficulty needs to be adapted to the individual's skill level. There are, of course, other contributing factors to player motivation that are also considered in this context, such as appropriate feedback or providing valuable experiences. Looking at how games for physical therapy are designed, we find that they are seldom underpinned by a comprehensive examination of therapeutic practice, but rather focus on functional outcomes and performance. A missed opportunity for our research community to learn from therapists' work. To gain a better understanding of therapists' approaches and to investigate what and how we can learn from them, we formulated two research questions. First, we wanted to investigate what strategies therapists employ to motivate their patients and how they adjust therapeutic sessions to suit the individual's needs. Second, we wanted to look for differences and similarities between the way therapists approach patients and the way players are typically approached in games for therapy. To answer these questions, we chose self-determination theory as a theoretical lens. Self-determination theory is a macro theory of motivation, well-being, and psychological functioning developed by Ryan and DC. A growing body of work acknowledges its importance in both physical therapy and games research, although not without criticism of its application, as work by Mainz and colleagues, Detterding and Tayak and Meckler points out. SDT includes 6 mini-theories, each of which examines different aspects of motivation and psychological functioning more closely. For our work here, we chose to focus on 2 of them. First, basic psychological needs theory, which defines the needs for competence, autonomy, and relatedness as integral to well-being and psychological functioning. And second, organismic integration theory, which allows us to examine how external factors affect patient motivation. We designed a semi-structured interview study with questions grounded in these 2 SDT mini-theories. They each encompass a number of concepts for which we defined keywords that were then used to formulate the final questions. Can patients influence the structure of therapy? Is, for example, one of the questions addressing autonomy. We included a total of 12 professional physical therapists from Belgium in our study, all of them working with children and adolescents. We carried out a deductive thematic analysis considering each of the concepts covered by BPNT and OIT. The results for competence, for example, revealed that therapists intuitively embrace the relevance of patients feeling competent during therapy. They carefully design physical therapy sessions in a way that allows them to continually adapt exercises to match the skill level of their patients and provide feedback to reinforce perceived competence. For example, they typically build off existing skills and vary exercises to adjust difficulty. They also avoid frustration and failure at almost all cost and are careful to consider their patient's emotional experience of physical therapy. We found relatedness to be the most prominent concept within our data. The relationship between therapist and patient is considered central to delivering effective physical therapy by all our participants. Some participants even further highlight this importance by mentioning that they would only continue to work with a patient if there is a good connection, which is highly dependent on the individual and is influenced by the specifics of the therapy. The use of rewards, for example in the form of stickers or candy, was mentioned as one way to help establish a good relationship. In parallel to this, we also found a connection to the avoidance of frustration and failure here, as it might bring about negative feedback. This ties in nicely with the results on external regulation, where we found a wide variety of approaches and perspectives towards the use of rewards, while punishment was rarely said to be used. Overall, therapists varied their approach depending on the patient, with some, for example, responding better to tangible rewards, such as stickers, and others focusing more on their own achievements during therapy. More details and nuances on these 3 examples and the results regarding the other concepts can be found in our paper. Circling back to our research questions, in summary, we found that therapists' strategies align with self-determination theory, but are strongly shaped by the constraints of therapeutic practice. For example, the need to progress in training a specific skill or time limitations. Therapists appear to adopt a more holistic perspective as compared to games. They closely consider the individual patient's background and current situation in their approach and adapt at a very high level of fidelity. Based on our results, we formulated a set of 4 key lessons. 1. We see a need to develop a more holistic approach to adaptation in games for physical therapy, also considering situational factors and individual traits of patients, and recommend the exploration of manual approaches to measure these factors alongside comprehensive setup and calibration routines. 2. We recommend to view player performance through the lens of vulnerability, focusing on constructive rather than negative feedback in this context and avoiding instances of failure, as well as employing competence-enhancing strategies. 3. Our results suggest that physical therapy often comes with a lack of meaningful autonomy. Games may be a good medium to balance this. And 4. We suggest viewing games as a supplementary technology that can be used to support patients, but at the current stage of technology development would struggle to provide a similar level of detail, care, and persistence regarding adjustment. Motivation plays an important role in both traditional physical therapy and games for physical therapy. However, in the past, relatively little attention has been paid to what HCI research can learn from therapists' practice. We contribute our key lessons as implications for design for games for therapy, but would also like for this work to be understood as a reminder for our research community to ensure that we carefully study roles and contexts of activities that we seek to replace or augment through interactive technology, so that we root the design choices we make in understanding and appreciation of game design and traditional practice alike. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.